as I thought I could plan a podcast, that is not going to happen. I do not have the mindset to sit here. Chop up block to block how I'm going to tell you about weight loss and weight gain. Good morning on this July 1st, 2022. The time is 7:56 a.m. and welcome to Early in the a.m. with Tisha. This is the first in a long time. I've been getting up bad early for the past couple of weeks very cleanly. There wasn't no fog in the awakening besides the normal grogginess and having to go to the bathroom. But I haven't been getting up this early since I've been working. It feels good though. I feel better for doing so. But anyway, I've been taking this real estate course now for about a couple of weeks. And yesterday or last night was the first time I went back to the Bible to help me with my classwork. Literally, I credit them for giving me such a great habit, even though I don't do it as much. But sometimes when I get caught up in something and I want to keep it in a good plane, on a good leverage place, regardless of my means. Now I'm doing that again. I'm learning about professional ethics and the code of ethics and business ethics, and having Bible scripture that relates to real estate is a great way to keep that door open without forcing yourself on. A lot of times when people force themselves to be good, it's not genuine. And then they result to means to keep themselves genuine. Like they have to drink every now and again to relieve the stress. And it leads to habits where, when you're growing, you got to do what you got to do. But there's leverages or ways so you can make it easier so you don't have to say that alcohol is what leverages you. It'll just be your celebratory after a good day. The reasons why will be in a better place instead of the same old, adults do what they have to do. But anyway, so I've been, I want to say researching a certain topic, but I've definitely been, let me get to the quick memo. I want to talk about something I've been looking at today, and it says spiritual exploration and what it's okay to stop believing in certain things pertaining to morality and social exploration. In spiritual exploration and entitlement theory, Novak's distributed to justice the missing prices of entertainment, expiration dates, and consuming spoiled promises, feasting on the material rot of the flesh, like a zombie that constantly feeds on itself, digesting its own nerves and intestines, its scaly skin and bones, reinvesting the fecal of its own empty resolutions and promises, the flatness of its feet on the ground, the sway of its despair, the truth of its name. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about right now. Not necessarily so the way I've just been explaining it right now, but when is it okay to stop believing in certain things? Do certain belief systems, I want to say, expire? Now that we have the technology and the means to access things like never before within ourselves, within the planet, beyond the planet, are there certain belief systems that have tapped out of existence? Like, are they extinct now? You think a lot of things about the role of the woman in the world and what's going on with Roe versus Wade, and how the wheel turns in a way where this topic is coming back up, but it's not in a way that we feel is good. It's like a bad tooth. It was like a big root canal. It was like, we have to pull this one out. And we have to take it in a different direction because of the way womanhood has grown towards existence and entertainment. You had this phenomena of, what being other than the traditional version that the white patriarch male pursued, the homebody, take care of the kids, the barefoot, the pregnant. And then the because of war, she was able to leave home, but it was to provide for family. And then because of social standards, independent standards, and financial standards, she became independent and a force on her own. And within that growth, you have a different community coming up, exuding femininity in a way that pronounced its own freedom. And what used to be under locks and chains because of spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, and persecution and things of that nature, that same patriarchal male had his hand on that femininity, saying you can't come out, you got to stay in the underground, stay where you are. You know what I mean? Type of mentality. Then the wheel turns and things change, and now it's like that sexual freedom is so sexualized now. I think we use sex to remedy so much stuff. Like sex is the freedom that remedies this. You have enough sex, you won't be as stressed, and this releases the tonins, and you do this because it makes you look better. If you keep doing it, you'll become a sex machine, and it's art, and it's life, and it's liberty. And then you wonder why things are so hypersexualized, and the reason for it is because it's almost the true denominated factor. It decides who's in and who's out to a fault. It's the number one aphrodisiac. You name it. It's a source of love, the grapes of wrath, the war and the roses. And then you have, this old rule that came up during our grandparents' time, grandparents and great-grandparents, and that I think that law was truly for them. It's the way in the way it came out and the noise it represented. It fit the time frame. It fit the technology. It fit the spiritual, the morality code. It fit the ethics. It fit all those good things. It's perfect. It was the clean cut, and it stuck. And the celebration fit, the commitment to its cause fit, and now we're at a place where we fragmentalize and compartmentalize so much, and we free ourselves within such things so much that such a rule will get shattered in our very basic freedom will shatter such a thing. What abortion means, because abortion may have been a lot more concrete in the day where Roe versus Wade existed, but in today's world there's so many ways to do the one thing. There's so many ways to have children now. There's so many ways to have abortions now, just by your lifestyle. You don't even physically have to go to the actual place to get the abortion. It's when you change your sex to who you partner with, and these dynamics keep you from having physical kids. So it almost knocks the abortion definition out of the box. And then you really truly looking at women who get abortions and why, besides either for health where they have to, or from rape. But the natural promiscuous female and males that go out and have plenty of kids is who you're taking care of. And then they're looking at statistics of who's taking care of these people in the end. And they figure, if we can do so, then let's take out this root that the patriarch doesn't need to be there anymore. Because his hand isn't really on the femininity on one end, and his hand is kind of let the other one go entirely years and decades ago. So now we're at a place where he's trying to focus on himself. And in such a way, and in such ignoring the two in one play, he kind of just got rid of it, and now there's this awful sore there. How could you pull out such a root? How could you take our stake, our grip out of the ground? Don't you see this part of the tent flapping in the wind? All of our goods are flying away. Who's giving the slaves all of the God's grain out of the storehouses? Who said they were worthy of 7 days rest? Moses. Who's Moses to give all the slaves the temple grains? That's the question that comes up in my mind. In my mind, this is what I'm thinking of. And it brings it back to things that expire because of our means to be divisive. Are there certain moral codes that we don't need anymore? Because the phone contains those. The phone is the moral code. So why do we need to practice it in church or any other place? Do we just go to church to keep our traditions going, going back generations? I think about it sometimes. I'm thinking about it now. Distributive justice, the Novak entitlement theory, which means if you get a certain thing, and according to how you get that certain thing, are you supposed to share it with everyone in the community? And I was thinking about that, and the Bible scripture I found, especially, I can't even remember where I found it, but when I do find it again, I'm going to make sure I write it down so I can tell you what it is. And it's, the covenants that were made in the church. And a lot of people, they wanted to join and follow their favorite prophets or their favorite priests or ministers. They sold all of their belongings and they gave all of it to the community. So no one was in want. It was an equal balance. It was a distributive justice. It was transcendental. Everybody had the exact same thing, but not necessarily by their own accord. Like, if I had 5 people here, we all have $500. But it was because 2 people brought in $1,250, and now they split it between the 5 of them. Now everyone has $500. It doesn't matter how. It shouldn't matter how the one person got the $500. It should matter that now that we're equal, we're bounded by covenant law now. We're distributive. We're working as one. You got to ask yourself, is that right? Could you live, distributively that way? Are you the type that, you hold your head a little bit higher because so-and-so don't really have $500. It's kind of your $500. Are you that type of person? And I think that's what the code of ethics is made of. Being able to be distributive without being judgmental. I think a part of me has to learn not to do that. I think my problem is there's too much of my own ownership in my charity. And I don't want to be the type of person that can give freely. But there's entitlement there in the same time. And I think with a lot of, especially with RoevWade, there was always entitlement there when it came to the choice of our own bodies. But that same choice in our own bodies has been given to other sects of life so they can have choice with their own bodies. A lot of these things rely on the same root, even if we don't think they do. They're relying on the root, we're relying on the root, and then the tooth goes bad. We're like, but wait a minute, it's our tooth. I was like, yeah, it is your tooth, and according to a higher source, we have to get rid of it. And it's not fair on any level. But it's not that we don't have what it means rooted in our bones, in our growth, in our girth, in our breasts and hips, and everything else. It's there, like your favorite cow on the farm. You and Sweet Moo is in it for life. I think that's what it is. It's distributive. In our distributive justice, in our commonwealth, in our commonality, we shared it with all walks of life. We got, a good use out of it. We've chewed lots of food. We're very nourished by it. But I really think the truth of it is going back. The root in it, in the aspect of the will, I think may be going back. I think I'm saying this because I am so distributive, and it's hard for me to think otherwise. I have to culminate in this, universal language a lot. I use it a lot. I say it a lot. It's in my omega-3 almost, but I think that's the truth of it. That's what makes sense about it at the end of the day. We have to be proud of who we're sharing our justices with at the end of the day. We pull the Bible up and we've manifested a good code of reflection and when we can accept people of all walks of life. But then we're looking at it's our grandmother's love we're sharing with everyone. It's our grandmother's love that allows us to walk hand in hand with every sect of life, no matter the pain that comes from it. And we don't see it as our pain, we see it as our help. But once you distribute yourself like that, their pain becomes your pain. You fight for their cause just as much as you fight for your own cause. And sometimes things go bad. And, and in helping, you may lose some things, but it's a group loss. It's not a personal loss. You're like, well, in me helping you, I understand you are totally in your freedom as well. It may be just about having kids, but not everyone can have kids that exist in womanhood. And I think that's the shared plateau we have to speak from. And then maybe in our sharedom, in this transcendental distributive sharedom, we're able to create a new Roe versus Wade. Not necessarily a row in your rowboat versus a wade out in troubled waters type of analogy that keeps flashing across my mind. But more like a speedboat and a deep sea, a submarine type of thing going on, where the time shifts kind of turn, and then now it's just a different time. It's a different o'clock going on, per se. And that's what I was thinking of. Spiritual exploration and things that go extinct. I think that perhaps in our reservations, they will never die. It's like a classic Sam Cooke song or Bobby Womack song. These things will be with us infinitely because the dynamic of human emotions never changed. But it seems like the more hypersexualized sex becomes, the manner in which womanhood exudes and its sexuality exudes will keep redefining itself and representing itself. And then the things that used to be sufficient enough, that used to be our cornerstones for life, will reproduce itself as a cornerstone somewhere else. And in that duality, even though it's common, even though it's sisterhood, it becomes a duality. Some things get injured in a way. It's a part of cancel culture, I think. Not that it wants to be, but not that we need to get rid of our teeth because our food is going to become digitalized. But I think in this manner, it's just a root canal that we didn't see coming. We just thought that because it's womanhood that we could just stretch it so thin, and that its temperament is so thin. And then the Karens come out in their confusion and they're arguing for placement. And then we see, okay, maybe they were close to the cornerstone. Maybe wasn't paying attention. Maybe insanity had these reasons of trying to replant itself in the ground. It didn't want to come out that way. Perhaps my judgment as a content creator should be restricted to boys to men and carrot juice that I make out of my juicer. But today I think is different. My mom's birthday is tomorrow, and I'm gonna do a little celebration. I got more homework to do, a lot more reading and studying for my quiz that's due, I think, on Wednesday after this 4th of July is over. And I think this Independence Day is going to be a great thing for us. Celebrating with a soreness in mind. It just reminds us of the people we miss so much. There's this song I heard. My mom introduced me to. We both came into it at the same time. It's by a group called SAULT, spelled SAULT, and the song is called Masterpiece. In part, this is a very sensual song, very surreal. It's very, I can't describe it. It's dark, it's deep. It's almost, it has a servitude to it. And in the song, it's from a 50s movie, I want to say. And there's a cataclysm there almost. There's a dynamic language in the humming, in the hymns. They're like humming. It's almost like a chant that comes from a scene from the movie itself. And that's what Roe versus Wade reminds me of. It's like I'm hearing that chant in the background of a time when womanhood was celebrated so vehemently, so reserved. So in the beautiful hold of its mom type of feeling. I think in that chanting I can hear how healthy, how strong it is, but where it's needed makes the root go bad. Like a tooth that used to be embedded in the back of your mouth that held down your jaw isn't needed there anymore. That particular tooth is now worn around our neck as our homecoming part of our homecoming necklace. Because it needs to be seen, it needs to be on the go, it being in the mouth kind of restricts its publicity in a way. And so the root needed to be open so I can air out such demons and such liberties and existences that it went bad. It hurts. It's like what I'm still thinking about my aunt. I had a real bad episode, a little bit of a bad episode about last night. It's just someone who was there for me in my lowest place. And she was there so frequently, I never had the heart to judge her about any of her flaws. It never caused me to. Even when it was in my face to do it, I was like, are you crazy? This person is more than just a backbone to me. Not necessarily where I'm laying on her, expecting her to carry me. But sometimes when I got below my belief in myself, when I was truly in a sunken place. See, she always had the plunger to pop my head right out. Just come on out of there. Girl, life is so much more than that. And I've been through 100 times more than you over my 50, 60 plus years. So she would give me a hug and she'd tell me how pretty I was. And that would literally be enough for me to change my mind for the entire week. Sometimes for the month, I would just coast on it. And then I would build my reserves, build up my reasons for celibacy and everything that I believe in. And then I realized that I became that person. It wasn't just a fantasy in my mind or a thought. I became that person. I exude those qualities in myself. I want to be professional with it. And now that she's not here, it doesn't feel right. It feels like a part of the inner circle has disappeared. How do you replace a member of your inner circle? It takes decades to create inner circle friends. Do I have the decades left to create another auntie? I don't know. Maybe I just have to become her in myself, become her strength in myself, her servitude in myself. I think I can. I think it's within me to do so. Yeah, I mean, it is. I was talking about, in spiritual extinction, what makes the zombie out of the belief, what makes it get to a place where when it becomes useless in times of war. And when peace is found in war, it isn't looked at, it isn't used. I don't ever see us running to having a choice to have an abortion as the peace after war. It just doesn't seem to be as celebratory the way it was. I think in that it becomes a zombie. And its cyclicals around the earth come a little bit smaller. And then because things that are stretched don't really return back to its regular shape, it starts eating itself. And because it's trying to keep up with the speed it used to have, it starts ingesting its own fecal matter, and then the smell comes out. And then you're like, oh God, that thing has gone bad. Kill it. So we usually kill things, overturn things, throw things out. Throw it in the garden so we can grow our plants, the best parts of life. I just think we're resilient that way. I just think we'll have another one. This just be a new dynamic to fit what our explorations have brought home to us. No matter the transcendentalness of it. Alright, love. I'm not gonna run your ears forever. But I love you and I love having these talks with you. And I'll see you when I see you. Talk to you later. As I thought I could plan a podcast, that is not going to happen. I do not have the mindset to sit here. Chop up block for block how I'm going to tell you about weight loss and weight gain.